Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and I am an American just looking to learn a little bit more about life in Europe. And today, we got a spicy video for you guys today. Check this out. This is from General Knowledge, and it's called Fixing Europe's Borders and Making Everyone Upset. Now, I took a little quick peek at the comments here just to see kind of what I was in store for, maybe what the video is about a little bit. And it does appear like General Knowledge did in fact make everybody upset by this video. So if you're a European, then check out this video and let me know your thoughts. Don't get mad at me in the comments, but definitely let me know your thoughts. How did he do separating out different European countries and changing the borders and all that stuff? But let's waste no more time. Let's get straight into it. Finally, fixing Europe's borders. Whoa. Whoa, cool.
The comments on this video are going to be fun, huh? I think it's going to be a record of about 10 to 12 different countries that are going to be mad at me. A couple weeks ago, I saw this video by Geography by Jeff where he redesigned the state borders of the United States. It's a great video. You should definitely go watch it. And it's from where I drew inspiration, this idea to do the same thing, but instead for Europe. So let's redesign Europe's borders. Again, remember, this isn't to be taken super seriously. I'm not advocating for
too late, judging by the comment section.
Seriously defending annexations or losses of territory. Let's start out west and then travel east. We're going to begin with Portugal. Portugal is one of the most well-defined nation states in the world. Am I saying this because I'm Portuguese and I'm biased? A little bit, but it is true. The truth is, Portugal is often presented as a perfect example of a nation state, along with countries like Japan, Poland, Greece, or Iceland.
What makes a perfect nation state? What did he say? Nation state? What makes a perfect nation? Like he's saying. I wonder. I don't know.
Countries where a single ethnic group is dominant, and contrasting with places like Canada or Belgium, where essentially different nations exist within the borders of the single country.
So basically a nation dominated by one ethnicity. Interesting. I'm assuming that's where he is going to go with the remainder of this video, and I can definitely see how this is going to make some people a little bit upset. I mean, I'm from America, obviously, so we have every different nation, state, or whatever in America, so we are very, very, very diverse, and I actually really like it that way. I don't know if I would want to have just one nation, state, or one ethnicity really completely dominating the entire population, but then again, I don't really know the difference, so I don't know if I would like the other way. I just feel like diversity is what I would prefer, but I don't know. Either way, let's check out what this guy has to say about it.
Because of that, these perfect nation states are less likely to fall apart or break apart. And that's the reason why I think Portugal wouldn't lose any territory. It also has had the same border since like 1243. I did, however, think it would be interesting to add Galicia to Portugal. This is based around a small movement called reintegrationism, a linguistic movement in Galicia that advocates for the recognition of Galician and varieties of the Portuguese language as a single language. Galician is in fact very similar to Portuguese, arguably more similar than it is to Spanish. And Portugal emerged from Galicia when it was first created, sort of. In addition, a small independence movement exists within Galicia too, and a potential success in breaking away from Spain might be followed by an integration with their language brothers of Portugal, perhaps with a status of an autonomous region, like the Portuguese archipelagos of the Azores and Madeira. Oh, and also we could finally regain Olivença. It is legally Portuguese after all, despite being occupied and ruled by the Spanish. And then we have Spain, precisely. Just like Galicia, other Spanish regions have independence movements too. The strongest ones, and I would say the only serious ones that have a real chance of succeeding, are the Basque Country and Catalonia. So in this map, I decided to give independence to those two new countries that Europe would have. I also
Oh,
thought, hey, what if the Balearic Islands got independence too? They're of course too small to be self-sustaining as a country, and they don't have any independence movement that I am aware of, but they do have a lot of tourism, and they could potentially take advantage
Ibiza, Mallorca, Menorca. Yeah, these three islands get a lot of tourism, that's for sure.
of conditions that other small island nations do too, perhaps becoming a tax haven and a fellow microstate like Monaco and Andorra, which by the way in this scenario I think would continue existing too. To make up for these losses, I think it would make sense for Spain to finally re-annex Gibraltar. I mean, come on, England, colonial times are over. Why do you have this place in the middle of the Mediterranean? It doesn't make much sense. Now, as you may notice on the map, part of the claimed Basque country and Catalonian territories reach into France. So they would lose a bit of territory there. Let's see what else would change for them. First, the island of Corsica, which is now part of France. Corsica is French today, but it used to be Italian before, and it also has a small independence movement, which used to be bigger. Its economy and culture are similar to that of southern Italy, so I think it would make sense for it to join its southern brother of Sardinia and become southern Italian. And by the way, in this map, I also divided Italy in two separate countries, north and south. Northern and southern Italian cultures are a little similar, but they're also tremendously different in other aspects. They have different heritage, economies, the north being urbanized and industrial, and the south being more rural and focused on agriculture and tourism. You could even argue that languages tend to be different depending on where you are, because Italy has so many regional dialects that are completely different from each other.
Oh boy, if regional dialects plays a big role on him separating countries that are current countries, then I'm excited to hear what he has to say about Germany. Whoo, let's find out.
One good example of the different heritage is the percentage of blonde people in northern Italy versus the south. Consequence of the north's connections with different parts of Europe throughout its history, including Germany, Austria, and Scandinavia, where light hair is more common. So I think dividing the two into their own countries could potentially make sense, while San Marino and the Vatican would remain independent in this scenario. But now let's go back to France and see what else would change for them. As I mentioned before, France is another good example of a perfect nation state. So apart from losing Corsica to Italy, the only two other changes I thought of were the annexation of the southern half of Belgium, Wallonia, where the population speaks French and is arguably a part of French culture, as well as the potential loss of Brittany. Brittany differs from the rest of France in the sense that it has a stronger Celtic heritage. Brittany is in fact considered to be one of the 6 Celtic nations, along with Cornwall, Ireland, the Isle of Man, Scotland, and Wales.
And Galicia. Interesting.
And in fact, if you notice a little further north, I also added Cornwall and the Isle of Man as being independent. Throughout the 20th century, especially at the start of it, there were some movements asking for independence or at least greater autonomy for Brittany within France. While this movement has died out a little in the current century, there are still remnants of it. Breton cultural nationalism includes an important linguistic component, with Breton and Gallo speakers still seeking equality with French within the country. So an independent Brittany in the context of a fully redrawn Europe, in a scenario like this, wouldn't be that crazy. Now, since I mentioned the Celtic nations that are today part of the UK on the map, let's take a look at those next. In a scenario like this, where we're trying to...
I know that this is going to get spicy because, for thousands of years, Britain, Great Britain, England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, like all of these different nations, and before that, tribes of people and kingdoms and whatever have been fighting over land and what they call themselves and who has control of what since the beginning of time. So this should be interesting.
Assigned territories based on different local cultures and ethnicities or nations, I think a breakup of the United Kingdom would be inevitable. In this case, England would stand alone while Cornwall, Wales, Scotland, and the Isle of Man would go off on their own as new countries, while Northern Ireland would be annexed by the Republic of Ireland and exist together. I mean, half of
Makes
Scotland
sense.
still wants independence today, the numbers in Wales are surprisingly going up too, and the Catholic population of Northern Ireland is taking over, making a reunification just a matter of time. I also added a tiny little detail with the Orkney Islands of Scotland joining Norway. These islands are often discontent with the British and Scottish government, and they are very often threatened to ask to be integrated within Norway and first declare independence to be able to do it. Why Norway? Well, Orkney was actually colonized and later annexed by the Kingdom of Norway in 875 and settled by the Norsemen. It was only in 1472 that Scotland, following the failure to pay a dowry promised to James III of Scotland by the family of his bride Margaret of Denmark, annexed the island. So, hey, if they want to be Norwegian, why not make them Norwegian in this sort of crazy scenario that we're building? For the rest of Scandinavia, I didn't really think of many changes that could take place. I think Denmark recovering Schleswig-Holstein from Germany would make a little sense in this scenario.
They're taking it from Germany?
It was theirs for a long time, and part of the population there is still Danish. I think Finland could potentially recover some territory it historically lost to Russia, and perhaps the Sami people, common throughout the north of Norway, Sweden, and Finland, could achieve independence as their own fully sovereign state too.
Oh, interesting.
And plus the re-annexation of the Åland archipelago into Sweden as well. Going back to the west, we can take a look at what the Netherlands would look like and what changes would take place. Since we attributed southern Belgium or Wallonia to France, I think it only makes sense that we would give northern Belgium, Flanders, to the Netherlands. Flemish people are culturally and linguistically kind of Dutch already.
Dude, I can already tell that everybody is going to hate this.
So
I can already tell.
For both
this
parts
is so
of Belgium,
fun.
I think
I
this
like
type
this
of
because I know it's going to
territorial
make everyone mad.
redistribution would make sense. The small border regions that are majority German could be given to the Germans too. And perhaps the capital of Brussels, being so multicultural to begin with, due to being the European Union's capital, could become its own city-state, sort of. That would be interesting to see. In the scenario, Belgium as a country would disappear completely off the map. I think
no more Belgium.
Would be very upset at that. While Luxembourg also presents a kind of mix between French and German, it has very much developed its own identity, so independence would make sense even in this scenario, unless we assigned it to Portugal because of all the Portuguese immigrants that they have. Do you think that's too biased? Maybe. Actually, speaking of Luxembourg's territory, did you know that it used to be way bigger than being partitioned by its neighbors?
Really?
I think that's a cool video topic on its own. You know, how Luxembourg used to be bigger and then it got smaller. If you want, I can do a full video on it. Switzerland is another case where no changes would occur. It's a pretty perfect example of a nation state too. While language differences do exist with part of the country speaking French, the other speaking Germany, and part of it Romansh, a common Swiss identity.
Dude, Italian, German, Romansh, and French. Huh?
Does exist. At most, they could gain territory by annexing Liechtenstein, a country whose existence is quite odd. They are already in a custom and monetary union with Switzerland today, so I think a political one could make sense too.
Sure, why not?
And now let's move to Germany and Austria.
Oh yeah, here we go. I'm excited about this one.
Being reunified at the end of World War II, a lot of differences between East and West Germany remain today. The East is either Protestant or agnostic, while the East and South especially are Catholic. In fact, almost every indicator shows us how the two sides of the country are different. They even vote vastly different in elections, so why not assume these differences and accept them?
I just watched a video on my German reaction channel about how East and West Germany have been doing such a good job of unifying and integrating into each other's cultures, and you know, they've only had 30 years or something, like roughly 30 years to reform and reunify, and they've been coming a very long way in just those 30 years. And of course, there's going to be some differences. It's not going to be perfectly unified overnight, but they've come a long way. But this guy's like, you know what? Break them up again. I like it. This is making everyone mad. I already know.
Maybe they could be their own two separate countries. In this case, Berlin would be fully inside the east. West Germany could then exist on its own, while the south, being more predominantly Roman Catholic, could potentially unite with Austria.
Oh my God! 3 Germanys! Dude! We went from 1 Germany to 3 Germanys. Holy crap, this is crazy.
Its own identity, Austrians are still speaking German and share a lot of common values, cultural heritage, and history with Germans, especially those in the south. So in this scenario, we would have 3 Germanys. By the way,
if you hear fireworks in the background of my video right now, yep, that's happening. I don't know why. There's just random fireworks going down outside. Anyways, sorry about that. Let's continue.
West Germany, East Germany, and South Germany, which would include Austria. We could potentially assign East Germany some more territory within Poland. In fact, the old borders of the German Empire are still visible in many cultural and political differences within Poland today.
There's not only 3 Germanys, but also giving them more land. The whole Europe is just going to be Germany at this point.
Those differences
this is funny. I like it.
Actual German people living there.
The last time Europe was almost all one big Germany did not go so well. So I don't know if, making 3 different Germanys and giving them more land is the right move, but you never know. Maybe 3rd time's the charm. That's a saying in America, 3rd time's the charm. Maybe the 3rd time's the charm. Give Europe to Germany. Why not?
Have been
I'm here for it.
Germany's current borders at the end of World War II. So in this case, Poland would be another country with no changes to its territory.
Okay.
A lot of people maybe would say that they should annex Kaliningrad from Russia, but I have another plan for that. Which brings us to the Baltic countries of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. I think Russian Kaliningrad could be annexed by Lithuania, which could then join its northern neighbors of Estonia and Latvia to form a united Baltic duchy. This was actually proposed to be created at the end of World War I. In that case, it would kind of be a German puppet state, and it wouldn't include Lithuania, only Estonia and Latvia. It ended up not happening because then Germany lost the war on the Western Front. But in modern times, when threats from the east become higher and higher, I think it would make sense for these 3 nations to unite into one confederation to increase their strength. Speaking of the east, I think Belarus's annexation into Russia would be inevitable. They are arguably a de facto Russian puppet state today, so this wouldn't bring much change. Now to wrap things up for this video, let's move on to the Balkans. Which is probably going to be the most problematic part of the video.
Oh boy.
The annexation of Moldova by Romania is, I think, only logical and I think the less problematic. Most Moldovans are Romanian already. I mean, the Moldovan president and opposition leader are both Romanians. And Moldova shares a history and cultural heritage within Romania too. It would be a good way for Moldova to be safe of external threats by automatically joining the EU and NATO. And I think both sides would be happy with this situation. In contrast with this territory gained by Romania, the country would also lose a little bit of territory on the border with Hungary. After World War I, the Treaty of Trianon left thousands of Hungarians outside of Hungary's borders by unfairly reducing their territory too much. While the idea of a greater Hungary is crazy, I think it would be fair for these Hungarians to get to live within Hungary, and so a slightly larger Hungary would exist, taking up parts of Romania and a little bit of Slovakia. Other than that, Slovakia would remain the same, as would Czechia. Slovenia would also see no changes, the same as Croatia and Montenegro. But Bosnia, Serbia, and Albania would. I think the breakaway of Republika Srpska from Bosnia is sadly inevitable, and its annexation by Serbia
look at the weird shape of this country that he's proposing.
proper would follow, expanding the territory of the country. The territory gain would perhaps make them more accepting of Kosovo breaking away and potentially joining Albania to consolidate its separation from Serbia. For Bulgaria and North Macedonia, I think no changes would be needed either. And finally, to make the most people mad, what if Greece took over European Turkey? The annexation of East Thrace was a Greek goal until the start of the 20th century. The idea of retaking the old capital of Istanbul, for them Constantinople, was then abandoned as it was deemed as unrealistic, which it was, and to be honest, still very much is. But again, these are just hypotheticals to make us reflect a little bit on the borders that Europe has today and how they could or couldn't potentially change. So a Greek annexation of East Thrace would really clean up the look of Europe's borders over on this side of the continent. But
Cool.
what do you think? I doubt anyone will fully agree with all of these. Even
I
if you agree with
fully
some,
agree
it's
with
very likely
everything.
you'll
Let's
disagree
do
with
it.
your country's
Put it
changes,
into
which I
motion right now.
understand. I think I only agree with Portugal because we're only gaining territory and not actually losing any of it.
All right. Wow. That was awesome. Thank you, General Knowledge, for your service. Like I said, I agree with everything he said. And actually, if he wants to give even more territory to Germany, maybe we make 4 or 5 or 6 different Germanys. Let's just make all of Europe Germany. Like I said, third time's the charm. Who knows? Let's just see what happens. But I'm curious what you guys have to say about it. You guys are the Europeans after all. So what do you think? What do you think of his proposed border changes within Europe? This should be interesting. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And when you're done there, if you enjoyed, consider subscribing. It helps the algorithm, which helps the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. But that's all the time that I have for today. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.